Well, it's interesting how you kind of talk about how she had to learn how Guanxi works within the context of the Chinese Communist Party, because that kind of flies in the face of the idea that, like, oh, this is something from traditional Chinese culture. It's obviously not. It's something that you have to learn, even if you are a person from mainland China. It's something really just awful and foreign that's kind of forced upon you.
Yeah, it is. It exists in the context of Chinese culture, but it's a complete different thing. It's peculiar in its own sense. So it has a background and context of the Chinese culture, but it has been twisted to fit the system.
And so it must be very challenging for any kind of foreign businessman coming into this environment, even coming from Hong Kong.
Oh, yeah.
Coming into this environment and trying to figure out how this game is played.
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, that's why, I believe the book will be very interesting for somebody, even, if somebody want to do business in China in today, now I'll show you how the game is actually played.
Well, that's the key. So the big thing is, like you were saying, that back in the day, a lot of the PLA controlled a lot of the businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically from the 90s, 2000s, there was a sudden swell of so-called private Chinese companies.
Mm-hmm.
But really, how private can any company be in China?
Yeah, I think it's very, we a lot of times the West and use the same term on a Chinese company, and the Chinese use the same term as the West on their own situation. Actually, they are referring to very, very different things. I think the West is some sort of naivety, because the calling, the name, the calling sounds the same, and it must be the same thing. And the Chinese, actually, I think there is a part on the Chinese of, I would say, intentional misrepresenting. So, as you just saying that a private enterprise, what's so private about a Chinese company? In the eye of the party, you all belong to the state. And a conscious and subconscious level, all entrepreneur is aware of their risk.
And when you started running your own private equity in the early 2000s, right?
No, 90s.
90s. So like...
we were 90s with the US company, and then I'll go on our own after 2000.
Yeah. So like when you started going on your own, what was your awareness like? Did you feel like you were starting a totally private company and then realized that it couldn't be private, or was there some other change in your understanding?
I was getting my introduction of the real practice of China. At the time when I first started, at the beginning of it, I was doing a telecom software company, and then you're starting to deal with the officials in this state-owned telecom companies, and you're starting to get an education of, okay, this is how things are done.
Mm. But you were coming into China essentially as an outsider, right?
Yes.
But the Communist Party, in their view, your telecom company still belonged to the state at some level, right? In their view.
In their view is, you are private as long I allow you. And if I need to, let's say, conscript you for the cause of the state, that's just a snap of finger and a decision on my part.
So you have to do it, otherwise you get, what, shut down?
No, they just replace you with somebody else.
Or you can be disappeared. Clearly that's an option.
Obviously.
I mean, when you started getting into real estate development, this is something that's interesting to me, because so much of the wealth in China now is built on real estate development. And I think a lot of people don't really understand how that works. Could you explain to us a little bit about how how like that kind of real estate transaction works. So what's the role of these Chinese Communist Party officials and their families in this?
Well, first of all, I think real estate, it's a peculiar asset class in the situation in China, which is very different from the rest of the world. I mean, the rest of the world, you have all sort of financial assets to put your savings and your incomes into. But in China, essentially, because the stock market has been so volatile, and then it's not really, it's not related to fundamental analysis. It's so volatile, it's completely policy driven, and there's so many crashes happened in the past. The general public just don't want that money to put into the stock market, and then China doesn't really have a debt market to say, and so what happened was that almost all individuals, put their money into real estate, because that's the only asset class that's widely available, and then so real estate becomes, almost like a mechanism for people to save their deposits, to save their money, and then almost like a deposit. So in that sense, the real estate is a very, very different asset class. It's from the rest of the world. In terms of as a developer, I mean, it is an industry that has that is heavily regulated. In the book, I gave example. I did one project. I need 157 seal approval just to complete that project, and each seal approval, it comes from one bureaucrat, and every one of them I need to work on. So it's a very, very heavily regulated project, and then it's completely at the form of the government in many cases.
But like to get those 157, official seals, what do you have to do?
You have to, as I said, you have to submit yourself to the power in front of you. I gave example. I need to drink a bottle of Maltai every meal for for years.
A bottle?
Yeah, that's like half a liter.
How did you survive?
Half a liter of 53% proof liquor, and then I have I have a team of employees. They do nothing but to entertain, serve those bureaucrats. That's just the way it is for us.
That's incredible.